Good morning. Thank you for joining us. This is actually a Mid-Atlantic chapter event. They're hosting it, otherwise known as MAD. So you know who we are, Mid-Atlantic Division. So just to clarify what the MAD session is about in the title. So we are very happy that Jackie has agreed to put on this session for the Mid-Atlantic chapter. And the Mid-Atlantic chapter, as many of you are aware, has been opening up their chapter sessions to national members. So we also appreciate that. For those of you who don't know me, I am the executive director of the MBCEA, but I am also the secretary on the Mid-Atlantic chapter. So that's who I am, and I will introduce Jackie. She is the our program manager and, you know, probably our expert on accreditation. She's been here from the beginning with AC478, knows the criteria in and out, and she is the person that will meet with you as part of your member benefits when you are looking to get accredited, to help get all your ducks in a row for the application process. So I'll introduce Jackie.
Hello.
And you can take it from here, Jackie. I can share my screen when you want.
Yeah, if you don't mind, Sasha, share your screen for a quick second for the members only area. Before we get started, I just want to remind everyone that anything we talk about, anything to do with AC 478, it's all here for you. So anything that I'm going to show you this morning, it's all in this section of the members only area. All right, so they're all downloads. The management system and the cross-reference matrix are Word documents so that you can modify them. The other documents are PDFs just to make it easier to transmit. But that's it, Tosh. I'm going to take over.
Okay, sounds good.
And I'm assuming you all know how to get to the members only area because you do it all the time, right? All right. Hold on. Which screen am I sharing?
Your Outlook.
I'm down. Okay, perfect.
There you go.
And then the other thing I want to remind everyone of, just because I like to start out with a commercial, is on the MBCEA YouTube page, we have all these fabulous testimonials. We have quick little videos of why it's important, why you should do it. And I'm assuming that if you haven't already seen those, that you're familiar with the concept, that someone's nudged you a little bit that it is important. What I'd like to do today is actually talk about what it means. So like now you want to do it, but what do you have to actually do? And if you have any questions, I want this to be interactive, just shout at me, slow me down. Sometimes I talk too fast, sometimes whatever. All right, so hopefully we'll have a little bit of fun and you'll walk away excited to do this program. There are two main documents that you need to be aware of. So just to back up quickly, when we decided, we meaning the MBCEA, decided we wanted to do this program, it was because there were a lot of contractors and erectors complaining about those low bid pickup truck and a ladder guys that were not representing our industry well, were not putting up buildings the right way, and giving all of us a black eye and taking business. And we wanted a way to differentiate ourselves. So we started looking into how could we do that, and accreditation seemed to be the appropriate fit. There is an accreditation program for the manufacturers. It's called AC472, and it's administered by IAS. So we went to IAS. So they have two documents. One are the rules, and the other is the criteria. These are the two documents that govern the program. They only get modified every couple of years, so you'll see that this one's dated September 29th. Whenever you have a question, or if someone is saying to you, well, you didn't do this, or you have to do that, if it's not in the criteria, you don't have to do it. And if it is in the criteria, you need to do it. So I want to spend a little bit of time today helping you through these documents, because no one likes to read them. They are legalese kind of documents. And I like to start with the rules, because we're going to play on a team. We should all know what the rules are. Everybody okay with this tactic? So, IAS is going to take your money. No money comes to MBCEA, but there is a fee. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. It's going to be between $4,000 and $5,000 a year, maybe as low as $3,500 if you're a smaller company, but certainly no more than that. You pay that once a year, and theoretically, that's all you pay to the IAS. You don't pay a per diem for them to come out to your company. You don't pay their travel. You don't pay anything else. So you go through their portal and you pay your fee. The next thing they're going to ask for is, do you have your documentation in order? And to me, the documentation is the most boring part. So although that's the first item mentioned, I like to talk about that last, because I don't want your eyes to glaze over and say, gosh, that girl is boring. All we're doing is talking about documentation. So let's talk about what happens after you submit your documentation. So my documents are all highlighted up. So this 2.2.1.2 with the little arrow next to it, they're going to come into a job site assessment, and this is important. It's scheduled at a mutually convenient time. So there are no surprise inspections. No one's just showing up at a job site. Your job sites are protected, whatever. You know, someone's got to. No one can just walk onto them. And so we fought hard to make sure that these were not surprise inspections. So you schedule it. You pick the job. They're not coming out to see how beautiful the building is. So they don't want to see a finished building. We want to see a building that has enough activity going on that they're going to see your crews working and some activity going on. So not too early in the job site and not too late in the project. Once they get there, these next couple of items is all they're going to verify. Now they're experienced engineers, and most of them have many years of service in the metal building industry, either from the manufacturing side, the engineering side, or even from the contract side. So they might question some things about what's going on at your job. Those aren't items that they're going to pass or fail you on. Those are purely constructive conversations. Joe Allen from Thomas Phoenix and Dave Lineback from Kaiser Martin will say that they really enjoy those give and take conversations, that they find that they sometimes are frustrating and challenging, but they learn things, and it's nice to pick the brain of someone who's on job sites all around the country. So don't be turned off by that. The program is really all about making you better. So every year you want to do a little bit more, a little bit tighten up your quality control and improve. So they're going to verify that you have developed a site-specific plan, that you've developed it and implemented it. That is a core requirement of criteria. A lot of companies do a site-specific plan when they do big jobs, but they don't take the time to do one when they do small jobs. DJ at Steelworks said it best. He said, I didn't know how much stuff I was forgetting about before I had to write it down every single damn time. And that's not to say that your site-specific plan is written from scratch. Obviously, you're going to cut and paste a lot, but you should take the time to develop a site-specific plan for every project. So one of the things the assessor is going to make sure that that's done. They're going to make sure that JSAs were developed and implemented for the job. JSAs, job safety analysis, different parts of the country call them different things, but there are samples of a site-specific plan and there are sample JSAs in the member-only area. They are going to verify that your erection drawings were stamped for construction, that you're working off the right blueprints. They're going to validate that at least 50% of the job site personnel are in compliance with your training program and that they are aware of your safety plan. So when you send in those electronic documents to get started with, you're going to give them a training plan and your safety plan. We don't want that to just be a paper document that you wrote to pass the program. We want to make sure that you are living and breathing it. And the important thing is that it's your plan. It's not our plan. It's whatever you say you do, that's what they're going to hold you accountable for. Then they're going to validate at least 25% of the workforce. So if you have an 8-man crew, 2 guys only meet the definition of a journey worker. We'll talk about that definition in a minute. They're going to validate that you're using checklists. Now, that's the statement. It's as broad as that. So it could be anything, but quality control in every industry, whether you're performing heart surgery or flying an airplane, says checklists are the way to make sure that quality happens. So we don't care what kind of checklist you implement, but we want to see that you've implemented something. It might be an equipment checklist. It might be a PPE checklist. In the members only area, we have like a 7-page document of a project checklist that you know, it was the bolt tightening method, same as what was specified. You know, it goes into great detail. You don't have to adopt that. You can. It's a nice document. We spent a lot of time developing it. This criteria does not say what checklist you have to use. It just says that you should be using some checklists. So a lot of companies in year 1, maybe you just do a PPE and an equipment checklist. But then as you get into the program and you start getting more in tune with it, you're going to do more. And then lastly, they're going to verify compliance with OSHA about the commencement of seal. That has to do with written notification that your concrete is cured. So I like to start with this because people almost always say, well, that's not that scary. So, Lucy, you're the only one whose face I can see, but scary, not so scary. So, that's the on-site job assessment. They're going to come and do one job once a year. That's it. All right. The criteria, which is the other document, so that was in the rules. I'll make sure you're familiar with what it looks like. The criteria is the other governing document, and obviously, by the fact that it says criteria, this is where all the meat and potatoes of the program is. There are, we define all sorts of things just so that we can make sure everyone's on the same page. If they use a word, to make sure that you're using the word the same way. You'll note that we use the word assembler. It's important to keep us distinguished from the structural people. So it's erectors and contractors who are substantially engaged in the assembly of metal buildings under the Department of Transportation Code and the Ames Code. Now, there are plenty of contractors and erectors that say, I just have one division that does PEMB, and I also have a concrete division and a whatever, that's perfectly fine. You're only going to be assessed and accountable for your metal building assembly work. Job site checklist, I think I explained that. It's just a documented tool used as part of a routine to ensure items which are relevant actually get done. We define a job site safety analysis, big long definition on a job site specific plan. Most of these words or sentences, have language like if required. So if you're not using a crane, then you don't need a crane plan. But if you're using a crane, then you have to have a crane plan, obviously. So we're not going to read through the definitions, but I just want you to be aware that they're there, and that's what controls the program. So here's our definition of a journey worker: a worker who has completed a registered apprenticeship program. I know most of you guys are not union, so I'm assuming most of you have not completed a registered apprenticeship program, or can give demonstrable proof of 3 years experience in the metal building industry, satisfactory completion of the MBI Quality and Craftsmanship Series. You know, you get that for free with your membership. OSHA 10, a rigging class, a hot work safety class, fault protection and hazards training, rough terrain forklift safety, and aerial work platform safety. We needed a stake in the ground. This was the definition we came up with. It's always subject to interpretation. For now, that's what we got. So 3 years and some training. Plenty of other definitions there. I don't think we need to go through them. So we talk a lot about the fact that the system requires a management system, and I feel like that's a scary word, so we're going to talk about that in a minute, and a cross-reference matrix, and that's another scary thing, but they're really not that scary. You have to submit that. It's got to be in writing, and we have a template that we're going to give you. So I'll get back to that in 1 second. I just want to go through a couple of these clauses, and then we'll talk about the management system. So we have 2 clauses about subcontractors. We want to make sure that people aren't getting accredited and then cheating, basically, for I don't know what other word to use. So they win the bid because they're accredited, but then they subcontract out. So we have 2 clauses about subcontractors. One is perfectly okay to use them, but if you're using a non-accredited subcontractor, you should declare that. So I know Jill Hance was on the, or Jill Trainer, from Hance was on the call, and Joe Allen is on the call. So Hance uses Thomas Phoenix. They are both accredited, no harm, all is good there. If Hance chose to use another subcontractor, they would have to declare that on their acceptance of the proposal. And they could, put caveats, but we're going to hold their feet accountable to the same standards that we hold Thomas Phoenix. They just have to be honest, and that's the heart of this program, is that you have to be honest. If you use subcontracted labor, so not a whole company, but you're just bringing in temporary labor or another crew that because the job's big, you need to hold them accountable to your training program. So we don't want you to only train your guys and then use a crew that you do for the, that they're allowed to operate unsafely and all because we don't care about them, they're not our employees. No, we want everyone to be held to the same standard of training. So those are the 2 subcontractor clauses. You have to have insurance, and then you have to have 3 people, a quality manager, a training manager, and a safety manager. Everybody with me? All right, let's get out of this document just because it's a long, wordy document, all right? And all right, are you still seeing that? Like all right, I'm doing it this way. For the management system, it's basically a document that explains what you're going to do and why you're going to do it. Your quality control, it confirms everything that's in that criteria, so that those two clauses I just mentioned about the subcontractor, they're in your management system. That if we use a subcontractor, we're going to declare it. And if we use temporary labor, we're going to train them to our standard. It's all about holding yourself to a certain standard, and that they can then verify that you're doing that. So it's your set of policies, processes, and procedures. The bottom line is we have a template that gets you through year one. It's bare bones. It's satisfactory. Don't overthink it. Don't make yourself crazy about it. But as you get into the program, you'll rewrite paragraphs. You might rewrite the whole document. I know Thomas Phoenix and Helmy on the other side of the country, who were two of the early adopters to the program, their management system looks nothing like this anymore, because it evolved. And that's the way it should be. So don't overthink. Like so many companies that I've worked with, they spend a lot of time trying to rewrite this document, and you're welcome to. I'm not discouraging anyone from taking ownership, but it's not as complicated as you think it is. So it's just the formal document that states the what, when, and how for your company with regards to AC478. So Hans is a good example. They're a general contractor. They do a lot of stuff that has nothing to do, not nothing to do with, obviously it has to do with, but that is outside the remit of the assembly of metal buildings. Art has slowly added stuff to his management system that the IAS doesn't care about. They don't want to read those sections, but that have to do with the control and running of his company. The IAS only cares about the pieces that have to do with metal building assembly. So you can make the document as big or as little as you want it to be, but there are certain things that it has to govern. It has to say that you have a quality manager, that you have a training manager, that you have a safety manager. It has to address your subcontractors. It has to acknowledge that you're going to create a site-specific plan for every job. That, you know, so all those things that are in the criteria need to be baked in. The cross-reference matrix, the best way to describe it is it's a cheat sheet for the IAS. So on one side of the document is the clauses in the criteria, and on the other side of the document is where the assessor is going to find them. And it sounds kind of silly, but it's as simple as this. It's on the cover page. It's on page 4. It's on page 4, section 2.7. This column is taken right from the criteria, and this column you fill in. Now, if you use the MBCEA management system, it's already filled in for you. As you evolve the thing, you need to go back and update your matrix, because page 4 might become page 5. But all the cross-reference matrix is a cheat sheet for them. So when they get there, they're not flipping through binders and looking for stuff. They're going to go right to page 5 and make sure that it satisfies the requirement. We talked about the definitions. talked about the subcontractors. They want to see that you have a document control policy. Too many small businesses have lots of documents. You might have created a safety plan specific for a big job that you won, and then you have a safety plan that you had to do for your insurance company. Well, we want to make sure that everyone in your company knows which is the right document and which is the controlling document for all work. So this is a simple policy. It's written into the management system of how you control it. Don't let that worry. We talked about checklists. These are the required roles: the quality manager, the training manager, and the safety manager. They don't have to be three separate people. A lot of companies, they're one person, or maybe quality and training is one person and safety is another person. They have to have the appropriate level of training authority. That's a big one. If you make, I don't know, whoever, Bobby, the training manager, but Bobby has no authority to say, yo, you're not authorized to do that, you're not trained to operate a forklift or whatever, get off the machine, then Bobby's not an effective training manager. So they have to have the authority and the experience to perform the job. And then the IAS assumes these roles have direct reporting to the highest level of authority within the company. That's what gives them that authority. So the quality manager is responsible for that management system. The quality manager is responsible to complete an internal audit once a year, and to organize a management annual review. And the annual review says, let's make sure we did our internal audit. Let's take a peek at the safety plan and the training plan. Are they still fit for purpose? Do they need to be updated? Did we buy a new piece of equipment? So we want to make sure we add that to the training plan. Did OSHA change something that we need to add and make sure that we've taken care of? And then it also needs to consider any customer complaints, back charges, OSHA violations, and then any corrective actions that you took. So once a year, that sounds like a lot of work, but if you're on top of things all year long, it's going to go quickly. And it's a good time of the year to say, what are we doing well and how can we do more of that? And what are we doing poorly and what steps do we need to take to fix that? What can we do better? Do we need to change something, add something, fire somebody because he's always the one screwing up? That's when you sit down and make those decisions. Training manager is responsible for that training program. Once a year, he's got to review it to make sure it's still fit for purpose. He's got to verify that it meets OSHA requirements, metal building manufacturers requirements, and equipment use requirements that are typical for your company. So if you never erect a Butler building and you only build Nucor, you're going to make sure that you're in compliance with Nucor's training requirements, not with Butler's, obviously. And they got to keep track of everybody's credentials because they got to be able to show them. And that doesn't mean it's got to be electronic. Paper files are fine. Anything that the IAS does, electronic stuff makes life easier, but it's not a requirement. Whatever is normal for your company is what you're going to do. The training program needs to be detailed enough that your field personnel are all enumerated. And you want to keep going back to that definition of a journey worker because you got to make sure that 25% of your workers meet that definition. People with 1 year of service have to have OSHA 10. Your training program has to include passing grades on the MBI quality and craftsmanship. And then there is a sample training program in the members only area. So you can adopt it, you can modify it, you can play with it. Got to be able to keep. You need a system for storing and maintaining those records, and they need to stay up to date. So if you gave someone a cert 15 years ago and it's something that needs to be renewed every 3 years, that's not good enough. Safety manager is responsible for the safety program. He's got to review it annually to make sure it still complies with the type of work you do. And then he's responsible to make sure that those job site specific plans were developed for each job. You know that MBCA has a safety handbook in English and Spanish that's available as a free download. That could be a significant part of your program, but we would assume that your program is a little meatier than that it references that for job site safety. And they're also going to make sure that your safety program describes the procedures of how you deal with not only your employees, but your subcontractors, and how you comply with OSHA standards. Making sure that you do your JSAs. And again, it's signed and dated by the highest level of authority at the company. We want safety to be owned, for lack of a better word, by the president. So in the quality manager and training manager, they get to sign their own documents. The safety manager, his has to be signed by the president. I told you about the fees right up front, because I like to get that out of the way. That's the only money that you're going to pay to IAS. Obviously, when you're training your people, there might be fees, but if you're part of MAD, I know you guys do a lot of this training at a very discounted price. So how you access OSHA 10, that's on you. That money's not going to IAS or MBCA. The quality and craftsmanship program, viewing it is free, but the testing for it, it's $10 a test. There's 11 of them, so that's going to run you $110 per employee if you're not already doing it. That's the program. Then after you finish your first year, then they're going to come back a year later, and another year later, and another year later. Does that make sense? Is that I always feel like my job is to make sure that it's not scary. So can we talk about this a little bit? Come on, you guys have questions. I know you do.
Well, I've given a bunch of this stuff to our safety director and told him to muddle through it and see what boxes we checked. And we're 60% there. And so we're starting to work on it. So I'm assuming we will be reaching out to you, asking some questions. He couldn't make it today. I have him in Burlington looking at some jobs. So now we're excited to get this thing rolling, because I know it's going to take us 6 months or better to get it all taken care of.
And I would submit it will take you less time than that. So
Okay.
have your safety manager call me. I'll put my email up in the chat in case you guys don't have it. We can spend 5 minutes going through what's in the members only area, and I can show him what can be tweaked and what just adopt as is. You guys have to understand it and be responsible for it and embrace it. It's not just a rubber stamp thing, but don't let the paperwork and the documentation scare you off. We would rather that you were embracing the momentum of the program. So
Absolutely. No, he'll be reaching out to you probably here first of the week, actually, because it's a big to do for us. Meaning this is important for Bobbit and Radius. So.
And I think I'm glad to hear that, Chuck, because I think it's a big to do for the industry. Other crafts have trade names that when you tell your friends and family, they know what you're talking about. I'm an electrician. I'm a iron worker. we don't really have that, and we should. I mean, you guys are highly skilled, highly trained. Our industry is a lot safer than others. Not that there's not still issues, but programs like this are the way we elevate and create something special for everyone. So
I agree. Yeah. No, it's a priority.
good. So Sasha's asking who's on the call at the 610 number. And who's TC?
I'm Carney with Varco Prudent Buildings, and
Oh, good.
I talk to a lot of architects and engineers on how to specify metal buildings, and it's the same issue that you have, and that is, you want to make sure you're going to have quality, and so I am always specifying that the buildings should be MBMA members, AC478, and the erectors should be certified, so you know what you're getting. And so it's the same conversation for the manufacturers as it is for the erectors. And in certain states, I think it's almost required to have type of certification. It's one way to get around, working with guys that have never done metal buildings before. Anybody can hold up some steel, but when you get to the sheeting and the details of this is the full building envelope, and I want to make sure my buildings are going to be well serviced for the next 50 years. So I want to make sure they're not going to leak.
Exactly. Who else has questions? Kyle, how about you guys? I know Fleming was pretty far along, almost ready.
Yeah, we're really close. I've been with Fleming for just a few months, and this is one of the tests that I've kind of been tasked with, and just trying to go through the paperwork. So I came from the manufacturing background where we had ISO. So we were 9001 certified, and we did all that. So it's kind of why they put me in this role here to try to get us going with that. But we are really close. We just hired a document control person to help us alleviate some of the issues with the documents and form tracking and those types of things. So as soon as we get that stuff in line, I'm pretty sure we're going to be submitting our application and moving forward with this. So yeah, we're very close.
Good.
So yeah, we're almost there.
I do want to talk a little bit about the timeline, because there are two different schools of thought. Some people wait until they have all their ducks in a row and they're ready to pull the trigger before they contact the IAS. And that is perfectly fine, and there's nothing wrong with doing it that way. Other people start the process and then start almost the procrastinator that needs the deadline to get everything done. So when you start the process, they assume up to 90 days of back and forth on that electronic documentation. And it might take them 2 to 4 weeks, 6 weeks before they have time to deal with you, depending on how much other work that IAS has going on. So you pull the trigger and say, I'm ready to go. They might not be ready for you that day. So there are a few weeks. Then they come back to you and say, send me your management system, send me your training plan, your safety plan, or set up a Dropbox so I can access all that stuff. You take a look at it. That process we estimate is 90 days. It might be less, might be more, but that could take as long as 90 days. then they say, yep, all this stuff looks fine. Like your paperwork's completely in order. Let's schedule a job site. Well, maybe it's the time of the year where you don't have an appropriate project for them to come to. Or you say, one of you just mentioned Burlington. I've got a job in Burlington, and the guy says, I can't get to Burlington until December because of whatever, I don't know why. And you say, by then I'm going to be I'll be off the job, or the job will be too far gone. So it might take another 6 months before you schedule that, because it's mutually convenient. It's got their travel plans have to line up. And because they're not charging you a separate fee for their travel plans, they do try and maximize their travel dollars. So if they're, coming to Pennsylvania and they can do a sweep and they spend 2 weeks in Pennsylvania, but they hit 5 companies or 1 manufacturer and 2 erectors, that's what they're going to do. So sometimes waiting until you're perfect isn't the right action to take in the long run, because there's a lot of time built into the process. And I don't want you to get frustrated by saying, we were all ready to go on August 1st, and here it is October, and we're just now starting to get into it. So don't let that timeline frustrate you, because it's, way it happens with them having to travel out to see you, and there are limited assessors. The IS doesn't have a team of 500 people waiting to just inspect our program. So, and then a word about those assessors. They are supposed to have seen the MBI quality and craftsmanship video, so they have a little bit of a clue. They're supposed to be OSHA 10 certified. And have a long history in the industry. So more of them come from the engineering and manufacturing side, but no one should come on your job site or ask you questions about your training program or your safety plan that has never had anything to do with metal buildings before. So it should be, we really want it to be a good quality back and forth, give and take.
Good.
So Dylan, you're quiet. When are you guys going to get ready?
That is actually Denise with SNS.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But that's
Oh,
okay.
sorry.
And she does not have a microphone. Oh, but you're on the phone though, right, Denise?
Yeah.
There you go. Do you guys have a plan for SNS, Denise, or where you guys are at?
I've been informed that we're gonna revisit this since we were already through it previously.
Right.
Good. So any other questions? I really encourage you to spend a little bit of time on the MBCA YouTube channel. They're little 3-minute videos, but what I showed you is the nuts and bolts of what you actually have to do. But I want you to hear from leaders in the industry, people like Dave Martin Dave Lineback at Kaiser Martin, and Jared from Panelclad, and Tucker from Tucker Cope, of how it changed their company, why they did it, how they use it. They're companies just like yours, and they feel that it's made a difference for them. So hear their words and hear what they have to say. And then every other month, but we take the summer off, every other month we do a roundtable. And so we will have one September, I want to say, September I don't know. Sasha will post it. Nope. September 14th would be the next roundtable, and on those, there are formats similar to this, less boring because you don't just hear me speak, you hear your peers in industry that have just gone through the process. They talk about how long it took them, what they did, how the assessment went, what kind of questions got asked, and it's your forum to say, I just need help getting over this hurdle, or just getting over this one, or I have a question about this. So I urge you to either attend that or send your people to it, because it's a good way to figure it all out.
Sounds
So
good.
Joe, I know you've been on and off. Joe Allen from Thomas Phoenix, you got anything to add? Correct me if I went astray on anything.
No, I think you pretty well covered it. Sorry, and on and off job sites, and it's
Yeah.
alternately very loud and not. So I think you did a good job.
I can't emphasize enough the members only area. There are documents that Joe created that other companies have shared. So there's the AC478 section that has the management system, the matrix, sample training plans, some sample SOPs, the criteria document, the rules document. That's all in the AC478 section. But then in other sections, there are just documents and checklists and stuff that companies have freely shared. So find you need a form, look there. Or don't ever hesitate to just shoot me an email or a text. Sometimes it's overwhelming, all the documents that are in there. And if you say, I'm looking for something that does this, I normally can put my hands on it very quickly, because I feel like I live and breathe those documents too much. So.
Good deal.
Okay, thank you so much. I really appreciate everyone being here. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact Jackie directly. Obviously, you can contact me. Tom, you got something you want to share with everybody?
Yeah, I was just going to follow up. This is what I present to the architects on the metal building systems, how to specify it. And so I list that the, as a manufacturer, you want to see the accreditation. Being an MBMA member helps with that, because we're following the guidelines, industry guidelines. But also, the guys that are installing it, the assemblers, is a big part of that. So that's what we're pushing to the design professionals. And so hopefully that trickles down and provides some value added support for you guys to provide a quality service to more projects.
That's fantastic.
If you share your email, I will send you a couple of slides. Dr. Lee Shoemaker from the MBMA and I, many years ago, before COVID, I feel like my life is before and after COVID, we did a presentation in Nevada to the building code officials on how the two programs were symbiotic and really complemented each other. And if you give me your email, I will send you a couple of slides that you may want to incorporate into what you do here. If not, no harm, no foul.
Yeah, sure.
The other thing to note on that same topic is that the IAS, along with MBCEA, are actively getting involved with the architects to introduce AC472 and AC478 to them throughout the nation. And we've presented webinars to several of the chapters. And we've also participated in the AIA convention last month and had hundreds of people, of architects, stop by the booth and learn about both 472 and 478. And they all asked for the spec language. So, there is going to be a time where if you are not AC478 accredited, you may not be able to bid a project. The architects are excited about it. This is something that they've been looking for. Many architects say they're not interested in speccing metal buildings because of the quality of the erectors. And so that's the whole point of this. And so they're excited about this, and they are going to start speccing it. So it would, you know, just be a smart thing to get on top of it before you lose out on work, because you can't bid on specific projects. But just know that, you know, the IAS, MBCEA, MBMA, we are doing everything we can to market these accreditations and make sure that the people that should know about them do know about them. And so that's just something to keep in mind.
That's great.
All right, fantastic. Well, thanks again for joining us. And like you said, if you need anything, we're here to help you. So we appreciate it. And we'll talk to you all soon.
All right, Sasha, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you all.
Thank